The sea is always greener. All right, YouTube, let me just grab the talk. Let me just grab the TikTok. All right, what are we going to call this stream today? We call it the Homeschool Q&A. I rhyme every time because I am the based in red pill, Dr. Seuss. Homeschool Q&A. Although I was listening to Owen and he was like, you know, he doesn't take pills from guys in a trench coat, blue or red. And that makes a lot of sense. So really, I took the stead pill. I'm a homesteader, and I took it from God and nature. So, if that helps. Hey, Foster Bear. Let's crush this. We're doing a homeschool Q&A. If anyone cares to show up. All right, let's go. Ready? Let's bring TikTok into the fold. 3, 2, 1. 2. Well, I gotta press start, right? Good morning, TikTok. You are here with YouTube, and it is a beautiful day here in the sunny South. I am watching my wife push my baby daughter in a stroller, and my daughter is looking up at the sky and watching the birds fly, which is probably her favorite thing to do. Every time we go outside, she looks up at the sky and she points at birds and says, "That." Oh, you're not looking at me. That's hilarious. All right, how do I flip this camera? That's hilarious. I brought TikTok into the fold, but I'm facing them the other way. All right, how do I do this? How do we make this happen? Come on, there got to be an easy way to flip this thing. Is there not an easy way to flip this camera? I might have to stop this stream and start it again. This is a disaster. More. Admin settings? No. Maybe. No. Does anyone know how to flip the camera? Topics. Well, here's a topic. How to flip the camera. How do I flip the camera? Does anybody know? Try swiping the screen. Swipe the screen. I can see your comments. Just gotta... all the stuff I do, and people watch this, they're like, "Ha, look at this guy. He can't flip the camera." All right, I'm gonna X out of this stream, TikTok. Thank you. You guys check out the yard. I got it going on there. I'm gonna X out and check out the greenhouse as well. I'm gonna go into multi-guest. I'm gonna X out of this, and then I'm gonna go back into it, and I think that will do it. So I'll see you guys in another minute. And I'm gonna do my annoying intro again as well. I'm gonna do the same thing. The life is always greener. All right, yeah. Cut the stream. All right. Let's go live again. Flip. Homeschool. Hey! There's my beautiful mug. All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, TikTok. We have flipped the screen and we are live wired for our Wednesday homeschool question and answer, where you have questions and I do my best to attempt to answer them, but I might not always have answers. I'm just a guy. So it is a beautiful day here. As I was saying, I was watching my wife push my daughter in the stroller, and my daughter is 11 months old and she's absolutely obsessed with birds. So every time we're outside, she's pointing up at the sky, she's saying that, and one of my favorite things to do is just hang out with my little daughter outside and do some good old-fashioned bird watching. Yes, Melissa, I am back. It is flipped. Hopefully I have reception and this stream is meant to happen. But the topic of today's stream is homeschool Q&A. So if you have questions, fire away. Let's talk about homeschooling. Now, For anyone who isn't familiar with my work, I really work hard to encourage people to follow the interest of their children. Because when you follow the interest of your child, you are tapping into or channeling into their natural motivation. And if they're naturally motivated, they're much more likely to engage with what they're doing and actually be willing to learn. Some of the garden is no, this is not the garden on my shirt. You know what this is? My wife made strawberry jam this morning. She made German pancakes and strawberry jam, and I guess I have strawberry jam on my shirt. Thanks for pointing that out, darling. But it really was delicious. My wife is an amazing cook, and we're only just getting started because we're homesteaders. So the more food we produce, the more we can do, and we are going to do some amazing things. Although I will say there was a bug that was very scary on my tree yesterday, and I did some research and looked up what type of bug that was, and it was an assassin bug. Its name was an assassin bug, and I looked it up because it looked like it wanted to kill me. And apparently its bite is much more painful than a hornet sting. Or it doesn't even bite you, it stabs you. It's much more painful than a hornet sting. So it's on my Honeycrisp apple tree still. I went back this morning and it was still there. And I am deciding if I want to declare war on this bug or just let it be. But I do worry that it might start to procreate. And since bugs don't do abortions, that could be a real problem. What? What? You're telling me? Are you telling me that? You telling me that bugs don't, and other animals don't just kill their babies? That's what I'm telling you. All right. Neither here nor there. So with homeschooling, if you want to give your children the best education possible, the best way to do that is to follow the interest of your child and then use that interest to embed what you want them to learn, but really focus on skill development. By the way, if anyone has any questions, please fire away. It is our homeschool Q&A. So you follow the interest of your child. You use that interest to cultivate skills, because it's skills that ultimately free a man. You look back March of 2020, everything that happened after that. How many people do you know that maybe got pressured into doing something they didn't want to do because they didn't want to lose their job? Because they felt like they couldn't earn the money they needed to maintain whatever life they're living, right? With another job if they lost the job. So they would get procedures that they weren't comfortable with, which is, in my opinion, a egregious violation of basic human rights. But they would get procedures they're not comfortable with in order to earn that money. Well, the reason for that is people feel like they don't have skills. So when we educate our children, we want to make sure that we educate them in skill development. Hey, I got a chance to look through a few things and I love it. Oh yeah, the Feral Patriot joined Homeschools Connected this week, and I guess she had a chance to look through it finally. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And I posted two things this morning. I posted the latest lesson in the live class I've been teaching on the Bill of Rights, which was a class on the Declaration of Independence, which is really cool. And I posted this week's variation of the Nature Unit Study. And this week, our students will not only be studying bees, but they'll be making their own natural remedy with honey and garlic. They will be making candles out of beeswax, right? And you could do this all at your own pace, because I understand this stuff is a lot, but it's really great life lessons. And in the video class that I film as part of the lesson, I talked to the children about the business things that they can do with the type of skill of making candles. And I embedded a bonus lesson at the bottom of this lesson, which guides children to actually research local mom and pop shops, put together a sales pitch, and actually approach a mom and pop shop and offer to sell their candles at wholesale to these mom and pop shops. So this is an attempt to get children entrepreneurial experience through our nature unit study, which is what I'm talking about here today. I don't just talk about this stuff. I live this stuff. I practice this stuff. I practice what I preach. We are happy. There's a lot of information there. That's fantastic. I skimmed the surface and watched a couple of things. It looks awesome. How early of an age would you start your kiddo with homeschooling? I started homeschooling my children the day they were born. I remember my son this is the first week of his life. I don't know if it was the first day. It was the first week, and he sneezed. And I said, God bless you, cover your mouth. And someone looked at me and they were like, Brett, he's just a baby. And I said, I'm just setting the tone. I'm just setting the tone, right? We're just creating a culture. And learning is life. And your children, the first year of their life, you should do a language-rich environment. Oh, look, I just picked up a leaf. Look at this leaf. I can touch the leaf with my hand. Do you want to touch the leaf? Let me take your hand. Touch the leaf with your hand. You're touching the leaf. Look at you touching the leaf. Wow, I have this leaf in my hand. I could crumple the leaf. Do you want to crumple the leaf? Here, take your hand. Crumple the leaf. Oh no, we're crumpling the leaf. The leaf is falling down, 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 down. The leaf is falling down. Annoying, right? But your children are hardwired to learn language. So you want to expose them to as many words, as much vocabulary as you possibly can the first year of their life. They are language ready, and you need to be language rich, right? 1 year old, my son was out in the garden planting seeds with me. In fact, we have strawberry bushes today that my son ate off of yesterday, a strawberry from, that he planted with me when he was 1 year old. And we have those strawberries, and he knows he planted those. And he helps me with everything with the garden. And there's a video that my wife put together of when Brady was 2 years old, standing at this Montessori stool so he could actually engage in the cooking with the family. Brady, 2 years old, making a pizza. And he's taking the cheese and he's sprinkling it on the pizza, spreading the sauce around. Homeschool starts the day your children are born. Now, when do you formally start? Well, by the time they're 3 or 4 years old, depending on the child and their temperament, their readiness, you can start doing some formal type of schooling, like handwriting, drawing, stuff like that. And in terms of when you engage with the school system, you want to go to hslda.org. Every state has different requirements for the ages your children must attend school legally. If you go to hslda.org, you see a map on their website. And that map of the United States, you click on the state that you live, the regulations will come up and it will say, hey, in this state, you're required to formally school your children from age 5 to 17. In this state, you're formally required to school your children from ages 7 to 16. See, these are big differences. You want to make sure that if your child is of school age, you have formally declared your intent to homeschool and received approval from the district, right? And from the state. This way, if anyone tries to give you a problem later, you did your paperwork right and you keep good records, right? You keep good records, no one can give you a hard time. And don't ever let anyone tell you not to keep records. They are fools. They are steering you in the wrong direction. I don't answer to the government. Yeah, you don't answer to the government until the government comes knocking on your door. And then you better have a good answer, right? You better have a good answer because these people, government by its nature, has a monopoly over force, right? And when you're dealing with an entity that has monopoly over force, you better dot your I's and cross your T's, because the funny thing about that entity is if you're good at paperwork, you could be just fine, because police officers and people at the Department of Health and all of these people I've dealt with a lot in my life, they are bureaucrats. Their whole life, everything that drives the system, like, oh, this person from the system's giving me a hard time. No, they're paperwork. These people are controlled through paperwork. People ask, why is the government so inefficient, right? Well, if you've ever got involved with the government bureaucracy, what happens is that each level has higher-ups. And the higher-ups find a problem. And their way of dealing with the problem is not like a business, right, where they just cut out what doesn't work and try to become more efficient. Government bureaucracies try to deal with the problem through like a plausible deniability almost. They create more paperwork for every problem. So inevitably more and more problems come up and they just add more and more paperwork. So when you get these government bureaucrats, their whole life is just endless stream of paperwork, right? And if they don't have the paperwork, they have a higher up over them giving them a really hard time. It's a very soul draining system, right? It really burns people out. So, and that higher up themselves, they have to answer to people above them, and ultimately with bureaucracies, they have to answer to state auditors. And the auditors are going to look through all of the paperwork, and if the paperwork's not in line, everyone gets in trouble. These people are controlled by paperwork. So if you dot your I's and cross your T's, understanding the system, then you will be okay. But if you don't have your paperwork put in place, well, you could find yourself in a nefarious position. People will say that, oh, I don't answer to the government. I'm a man under God. My God you are, but do you know how to defend your rights? Right? Yeah, that's nice that you know it, but you got to know how to use it, right? So take care of your paperwork. Going through your comments, sorry, it just jumps around a lot. I don't know why it does that. They need to fix that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I have my problems with some things that go on here, but I will say that they run a very efficient app in terms of their tech. Like, the TikTok tech is so much better than all the social media techs, the other social media companies. It's like not even close. Just trying to get back to your comments here. Education is life, not school. Right. You want to put your children through life school, not school. Like, that's why, like, I posted a video on the Cubs to Bears channel, and my hook, like, when you make TikTok videos or any of short form videos, your hook is very important, the first 3 seconds. And I started the video today with how to get your child entrepreneurial experience, and the video didn't do nearly as well as most of my videos do. Because people are so conditioned. They're like, you'll get these people like, just let them be kids. They don't need entrepreneurial experience. You're like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's life school. Like, your children should be in life school. Everything that you envision them doing as adults, they should be doing as children. And no, you're not robbing them of their childhood. Like, in fact, homeschool children usually have a lot more in terms of rich childhoods because their work gets done quicker. They're following their interest, and their parents actually give them a lot more autonomy to explore whatever it is that they're interested in. Like, they have the free time. Like, public school is a lot of busy work. Like, you will be in school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And you will sit here even if we're not doing anything of meaning because the teachers have to get paid. And that's what we're going to do here. And we're trying to indoctrinate you. Any advice on a kindergartner with dyslexia? Memoria Press and the Gemini, Gemini homeschooling systems have materials specifically for children with dyslexia. There's also the Speech and Language Center for Children with Dyslexia, I believe it's called. If I'm misquoting that, I just forget the name of it, but I have it listed in Homeschools Connected in our resource library. But they specialize in dyslexia. And there's programs like Reading UC, Hooked on Phonics, stuff like that. And then, when you're raising a child with dyslexia, reading might not be their primary form of learning. So with their reading activities, you might want it to be less formal. Like, for their reading activities, you might want them to set aside 45 minutes a day where you guys do reading about anything they want, just fun reading. Like, don't make it too formal. And then for their formal work, like, oh, they have to do their history or their science or their English, like, let them listen to Amazon Audible. Like, let them have the book read to them. They might be better with auditory learning, right? That's usually dyslexic people are better with that type of learning, right? So you don't want to fight what your child is. You want to create an environment in which they can become proficient readers, and you want to make sure that they're not frustrated throughout all of their other learning endeavors, right? Our garden's not doing this year. It's not doing good this year yet. And just keep doing trial and error. Learn as you go along, and you'll find that you will get very good at gardening before you know it. Like 4 years ago, I started my first garden and I killed everything. And now, like, you come to my house and it's like, look at this garden. This is incredible. I'm like, yeah. And trust me, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, like, our goal is we're on a 3 to 5 year path to almost 100% of our food production being from the garden. And of course, my children will be intricately involved in that whole process. I'll use the garden to get them life skills, entrepreneurial experience. They could grow their own flowers and sell them in town, right? All types of things that your children could do where you can get them real world life experience. Homeschool is, in fact, life school. Education and school are not the same. Keep all your records. Should I make some sheets for record keeping? Yes. Yes. That would be neat. She'll start working on them today. And Coley has been making some amazing sheets. I'll upload them to Discord, Homeschools Connected. Homeschools Connected is our private homeschool community. A lot of the people you see in the chat are members. And yeah, we crush. Louder for the ones in the back. We do not need to co-parent with the government. We still need that on a shirt. Come on, Miss Classical Learner. It's like, I know you've been up all night with our baby who had a fever. And you've been you cooked us an amazing breakfast with German pancakes straight from flour. And you made a strawberry jam. And you helped us homeschool the children. But I demand more. My wife's incredible. She's incredible. What's the best way to keep records? I'm in Louisiana and I'm new to homeschooling. Yeah, if you go to hslda.org and click on Louisiana, it'll give you some guidance on that. But generally with record keeping, you want to take attendance in that you want to document that your child met the required number of schooling hours in the state that you live. So if the state requires X number of hours for the year, you want to show with attendance records, we did X number of hours a year. Dot those I's, cross those T's. Because then when Uncle Sam knocks on the door and they say, what have you been doing? You say, oh, I have attendance records right here. You see, everything we've done is in accordance with the state regulations. Not only have we met the number of hours, we've exceeded the number of hours. You want to document any subject matters covered, and make sure that if there are any subject matters required by your state, that you covered those subjects, right? So list down all the subjects you covered, any grades, any portfolio work that you gave to your child or that your child received from whatever. Any extracurricular activities your children were involved in. Right, so if you went to the museum, anything like that. So that's generally what you want to document, and if you do that, you'll be fine. There are free services like Homeschool Sked Track, S-K-E-D, Track, S-K-E-D, and there's also paid services that assist with the record-keeping process. I don't think you really need that much for early childhood. Maybe when you get to like high school, you might want that so that you have proper college transcripts, if that's something your child wants to do, or just for anything in general. Maybe they want to be a police officer, right? They have to have transcripts showing they completed schoolwork. And although you could keep those records, having a service that does it professionally, it helps. Even Christ kept records. Thoughts on Tekka remote homeschooling? I am not familiar with Tekka. I'll take a screenshot of that, and if I have some time today, I'll look into Tekka. I have 2 autistic children, one of which who has dyslexia and dysgraphia. I don't know what to do. Are they in public school? Have you pulled them out? Here's the thing, also, I don't know what that means, right? I have 2 autistic children, or children with autism. Because the autism umbrella is such a wide range that you'll have people on the Asperger's side of autism, and they are extremely high functioning. I mean, they're often more proficient in certain types of work than people without autism. And then there's people with what's called severe autism, and they are much more limited in the type of things that they could excel at. But with that said, if your child has severe autism, then there are things that your child will be very interested in, and things that your child could really start to excel at, and you could create a path for your child in life. There's never a time where you can't create a path for your child in life. All right, know your child, right? Know your child, know how they learn, know what they're interested in, and you understand those principles, and you can do amazing things. Now, Memoria Press and Gemini Homeschooling, they advertise that they're good for children with autism. Time for Learning says they have some good stuff, although I question that because they're all computer-based. But maybe, I don't know. But you could also give your children a lot more one-on-one attention at home. So it depends on a lot of factors. My middle child, dyslexic, is teaching herself Japanese by watching cartoons with subtitles. Yeah, that's a great way to do it, right? It doesn't have to be formal. And you can document that as schooling hours, right? Right? And you would document that as foreign language Japanese schooling hours, and you don't always have to document how you do it. So I don't know if I would document I did it that way. Never lie, obviously, but you don't have to include that. You just say, we did Japanese for 2 hours this day, right? Never, ever, ever, ever lie on a transcript, ever. But you could leave that out, right? Because some drone who reviews that paperwork would be like, you call watching cartoons school? It's did they learn Japanese? Yeah, then it was school. What are you talking about? What was the objective? The objective was for the child to learn Japanese. Did they learn Japanese? Yes. But you didn't do it the way we do it. Ugh. We are starting a compost and homeschool today. That's awesome. That's our students through Homeschools Connected have been doing composting, which is pretty cool. It's amazing what happens when you give them the reins of their education. Absolutely. Base their education around what they love. No, you know what? Was it a bumper sticker or a shirt? I don't co-parent with the government. I was thinking it was a bumper sticker. And then a shirt would be, grass is a luxury with a beautiful graphic design of a garden. Grass is a luxury with a beautiful graphic design, like a really intricate, beautiful, colorful shirt. That would be fire. That would be, basically, I'd probably wear it on the stream every day. Hardwood Bear, nice of you to join us today. Hardwood Bear, he doesn't grace us with his presence every day, but Hardwood Bear knows how to do everything. A jack of all trades. Hardwood Bear, would you wear a shirt that was a graphic design of like a beautiful garden, and across the top it said, "Grass is a luxury"? Do you think that'd be fire? You get all these people worried about a food shortage, right? And like, I just got so caught up in what I need to do in the morning, and I forgot to be on here on time. It's all right. You're out building things. He's out building and crushing. He's out building and crushing. But you get all these people. You get all these people, and they're worried about a food shortage, and then they just have their front lawn with all this grass, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna benefit a lot from that grassy front lawn if there's no food, or be like, oh man, I wish I planted seeds. I should have done it, I don't know, 5 months ago, so I'd have food now. You know, you got like, I think the governor of the Bank of England or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but some higher up in England came out again, and they were like, we could see apocalyptic food shortages. The president of the United States came out and said, you know, prepare yourself for food shortages. Then you have the whole situation with, you know, planes and things, you know, going on there. I don't know. I don't know if that's ventured into the realm of things I'm not supposed to mention, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And so you have all this stuff going on. You got Bill Gates, Mr. Wants to save the world, you know, in his own, you know, Dr. Evil way, you know, by getting rid of us, right? You got him. He's the number one owner of farmland in America. He's investing heavily in his genetically modified, disgusting meat. It's like, you might want to rip up that grass and plant some seeds. I don't know. Food for thought. He loves the jam so much he decided to... Okay. All right, we know. Pulled them out to administration bullying and lying to me about my children. Yeah, I can't tell you as the homeschool guy how many times I've been told that. That's why people are like, oh, send your children to public school for socialization. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? When a kid's getting bullied and they blame it on Marilyn. And the heroin, where were the parents? They were sending their children to public school. They should have been homeschooled. I guess he was right in that line. When a kid's getting bullied and... Yeah, I mean, that's the last place I want my children socializing, is in a public school. Now it's a tragedy. Now it's so sad to see. I grew up on that stuff. By the way, I think that stuff is terrible and completely toxic for our culture. I think it's satanic. And don't let your children grow up listening to that garbage. But it's in my toolbox because I grew up listening to that garbage. And they don't always have to socialize with children their own age, right? It's a ridiculous notion that to properly socialize, you're with children your own age all the time. Oh, you're on a roll today, Mrs. Classical Learner. My twins are on the autism spectrum disorder spectrum, and both are on different ends, so it's a learning experience for both. Homeschool should be creative and fun. Homeschooling is a beautiful thing. Yeah, absolutely. I want us to do the shirt. I want to do it with you, but like I want the design on this shirt, like the garden, like I want it to be the most beautiful shirt anyone's ever seen. That's how like I'm so hilarious, because like every time I start working on something, like I'll start working on a book, and I'll be agonizing over it, and like I'll be like, I'm like, Nicole, you don't understand. I need it to be the greatest book anyone's ever read. But that's how I tick. That's how I go. I'm like trees in the garden. We will plant more trees. We will plant more trees than anyone's ever planted. Not Memorial, Memoria Press. Memoria, and Gemini Homeschooling. Geimini. What is the language of origin? I did a post yesterday, 2 days ago, that wound up getting 300,000 views on it, which is cool. And I spelled the word learning wrong. Instead of writing Learning, I wrote I wrote Leanring. I accidentally did a typo. And this one lady wrote me. She's on Instagram, and she's like, the homeschool community gets a lot of flack, and you should really be more careful and check for spelling. I was like, oh, thanks. Thanks. You know how annoying you are? People. Is that insightful? Do you think I didn't know that I should check for spelling? Do you think I purposely not checked? Or maybe I just missed it. Like maybe I produce an immense amount of content literally every day. Like just my whole life is creating new content. And I'm doing that on top of it, like in a rush. I have 2 children jumping on me. I got to take care of 2 dogs. I'm homesteading, running a garden, running a business. And maybe like every now and then, I might just accidentally put the R in front of the N, right? Like, ugh. I'm not complaining. People are just... I'm probably sensitive to that, though. I'm probably being a little sensitive. When I was a child, I was almost 9 years younger than my brother, and I used to be in fantasy sport leagues with my brother and all his friends. We used to play fantasy sports, and I was a little kid, And whenever we write on the message boards, I didn't know how to spell and stuff like that yet. Like, my grammar was terrible. So I'd write on the message boards, and no matter what I wrote, all my brother's friends would just make fun of me, and they'd be like, I don't understand what that means, Brett. What is this word? This isn't even a word. Like, and they would just troll me, and I was a little kid. So I probably have some sensitivity to that growing up. I don't play fantasy sports anymore because I'm an adult, and that's also a waste of time and the bread and circus. But I would like to say I did win those leagues a number of times. A multiple time fantasy sports champion. Oh. I did enjoy my youth. A lot of people can't understand someone in my position showing up to do my profession for free, but it's all about the battery and sewing into the community. Yeah, well, the thing is, when you do things for people for free, like, it comes back tenfold, where, just think about it. Anytime someone goes out of their way and does something for you for free out of kindness, like, the next time you have the chance to help them, aren't you like, oh, I'm jumping on that, like, I gotta help them, like, this person's awesome, they did that for me. So, yeah, it does create a battery, and there's more than one currency, and social currency is a big currency, and if you do the right thing by people, people will do the right thing by you. That's the benefit of in-group preference, is being able to accomplish what other people can't. Yeah, in-group preference is very powerful, and they have indoctrinated or coached out of people that it's okay to have a group. But the truth is, it's great to have a group. Like, if you go to New York City, they'll be like Chinatown, right? And you'll have people from, you guys get it, right? And they have this great in-group preference, and they shop from each other's businesses and hire each other. And it creates a battery, because then you're spending money on their stuff. They're spending your money on your stuff. They're hiring your children. Right? Everyone's helping everyone. And it's a very powerful way to build wealth for your community. And there are many communities like this, right? If you go to Long Island, there's a certain community that you're never supposed to bring up ever, right? But there's a certain community that's very powerful with that stuff, right? So in-group preference is very powerful. Now, what is my group, right? I can tell you what it's not. It's not this. I don't, right? I think that's a false dichotomy. My in-group preference is people that are based in morality, that love America, right? That are connected to traditional American roots. Like, that's my group, and that's my nation. And Hardwood Bear is my nation. Like, a lot of people don't know this about me, but in other circles, I'm not just known as Classical Learner. I'm Classical Learner Bear, and that bear has meanings, right? Like, we have an in-group preference. We take care of one another, and we do the right thing by one another. And there is something very powerful about that. And the more people get back to that, the stronger you become. Because the thing is, when you start having that group preference, it's not as easy to isolate you, right? Because if you have a strong enough group, when they come along and say, you better get this procedure or you're going to lose your job, well, maybe you have someone else in your group that says, if you lose your job, I'll hire you, right? How powerful is that? How many people wish in the last 2 years that they had someone who would have said to them, if you lose your job, I'll hire you? How many people would have made a different decision? A decision that could have, we're talking, you guys know what I'm talking about here, a huge impact on their life. You know what I'm talking about, but the world is crazy, so, I'm not allowed to say what I'm talking I'm not allowed to say what I'm talking about, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. Hey, what's this guy talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. All hail our Savior, Bill Gates. All hail our Savior, Bill Gates. He has outlined a very great plan to bring our carbon footprint down to 0. One of these numbers has to change. If you look at these numbers, the carbon, and you see, all right, there's people, and one of these numbers has to change. All hail our Savior, Bill Gates. Psychopath. Melissa throwing nickels at me again. Memoria Press, Memoria, Time for Learning, and Gemini Homeschooling. I also have it all listed in Homeschools Connected. Shameless plug if you wanted to join our community. But I do have all of the resources I talk about here listed in Homeschools Connected, so they're easy to find. But those are the names of them. You could just Google them. That's like the thing about me. I'll get people who are like, oh, so you charge $10 a month for your community? I was like, yeah, I run a business, and I don't put my information behind a paywall. Like, I literally come on here every day. I tell people how to unschool their children. They ask me about resources. I tell them exactly what resources I would use, where to find the resources that aren't my company, by the way. Like, I'm sending them other places. And yes, I run a business. Like, I've spent years building something up, like working at nighttime and staying up till 3 a.m. building this stuff and writing my books, right? Like working. Why wouldn't I promote that? And why wouldn't I charge for that? Like, people are like so trained to lose. They're so trained to lose. Like I have been, like Tom Burnett is a good example. I've been sending Tom Burnett $10 a month for probably 18 months, and I've maybe watched like 5 of his videos in 18 months. Well, why do you keep doing that? Because I support what I believe in. Because I know Tom is doing good things in the world. I know Tom is out in the world. He's teaching people about common law. He's teaching people how to actually protect themselves from the system by maintaining their jurisdiction outside of the control of these government bureaucracies, right? He's showing them how to do that. I know that he's showing people different strategies that, trying to be careful how I word this, he is teaching people strategies they can use to live a healthy lifestyle, right? To live healthy. I know he's out there doing that, and because of that, I want Tom to crush. Like, I want Tom to, I hope Tom is somewhere right now across the world. I know he's in Australia doing something. In fact, I know he is, unless, and depending on the time, if he's not sleeping, he's probably awake doing something, making the world a lot better of a place. And because he's doing that, my children will grow up in a better place. And people have been so trained to lose that they'll look at someone like Tom and be like, why would you do that? Like, oh, you're going to charge for your work, Tom Burnett? Yeah, you know, like, he has to support his family, right? Like, you know, like, all this stuff takes a lot of time, right? It's a lot of time, right? You know? If Tom's working for 10 to 12 hours a day, right, how is he going to earn a living if he's not charging for it? But people are just trained to lose, a lot of them. Michigan, they don't require any paperwork. Do I have to still record keep? I would. I still would, because they're your records. Like, you don't have to let the world see them if you don't want them, but it only helps you to have records. Like, if you ever decide you want, you know, to use records, you'll just pull them out. You'll just be like, oh, you know, I never thought I'd want to use these records, but look, I have records, right? I would keep records. Records are power. Australia's making it illegal to grow your own food. Yeah, I mean, there's some crazy stuff happening in Australia, which it's funny I was talking about Tom Burnett, right? That's funny. That's a synchronicity. But, yeah, I mean, Australia needs to listen to Tom Burnett. Easy peasy all-in-one homeschool is a free curriculum. I'm from Canada. Oh, sorry about that. Ooh. I'm just kidding. I got love for you, Canada. But Trudeau, I mean, nightmare over there. These former English colonies are really doing a lot of cucking. Don't get me wrong. I mean, America's not much better. The last 2 years, it's like embarrassing to see these people who call themselves Americans. Just embarrassing. Yeah, keep those records just in case, no doubt. Ah, we have an Aussie in the building. What's with the plans? What plans? I'm about to start gardening in the woods by my apartments. That's awesome. Oh, that is legendary. What's with the planes? I live near a military base, which also means I see some cool stuff. Oh, you're talking about, yeah, with planes. Again, I'm guessing this is starting to fall into the realm of things that I get spanked for. But, planes, fires. Let's just say that allegedly, could it be, there's been some incidents at some very similar types of buildings. And let's just say that one of the things that I think people would be wise to do would be to start a garden and start growing your own food, right? because our food system is very fragile. It's a very fragile supply chain. And if certain parts of that supply chain start breaking down, right, that could cause problems with the supply chain, and you might not be able to get that food, you know. Some people would even venture to call those type of events a form of, what was that thing they called those people? Remember after there was that incident with the buildings, they fell down, and they labeled these people that word. I don't know. How do you find other homeschoolers in your area? Good question. For one, go on to Facebook and see if there's any Facebook groups in the area that you live. That's the first thing I would check. You could also call local museums, zoos, aquariums, Bounce You, Altitude, anything like that, and ask them if they host homeschool events. They often do host events. Hey, we're having an event next month on, the 22nd. Show up at that event and network. Or you could go to your local churches and say, hey, I'm a homeschooler in the area. Are you a conspiracy theorist? You can go to a local church and ask them if they know of any homeschool groups, because a lot of times the churches actually get involved with people in their church that homeschool. And it goes without saying, I saved the best for last. We do have state groups in Homeschools Connected. So like we have an Ohio group, a Florida group, right? Louisiana group, a Texas group, where people could connect with people in the state that they live. And if you find people that are close to you, people have actually met on Homeschools Connected and have had meetings in the real world. So that's something I really love about Homeschools Connected. The first step to starting homeschooling is, and go to local parks. The first step to starting homeschooling is to formally declare your intent to homeschool with the school district. So go to hslda.org, Homeschool Legal Defense Association.org, and they will have the regulations listed from the state that you live. There's a map in the United States. Click on the state that you live. The regulations will come up. You could download the paperwork right from there, submit your intent to homeschool with the district, and boom, get the approval. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that new homeschool families make is they attempt to replicate that 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. public school schedule. Don't do that. You'll drive yourself crazy. You don't need to do that. Homeschooling is much more efficient. Like, you could get done in 20 minutes what would take a school 2 hours. What are your thoughts on Fortune St. Germain's predictions for the near future? So, Hardwood Bear is asking me about this guy, Fortune St. Germain, who was recently on the Crow 777 radio podcast, which for any of you that aren't familiar with Crow, is arguably the best podcast on the internet. Another podcast that I pay Crow, I think I pay Crow $8.99 a month, and I've been doing that for a number of years now. Crow is a phenomenal human being. And he had this guy, Fortune St. Germain, on. Very interesting guy, very spiritual man. Like, cool to the point in which this guy has actually had access to the Vatican Library. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Vatican has a library about the size of 5 football fields in which they have kept occult information, secret information, occult means secret, information from the rest of the world for thousands of years in this library. Probably original scrolls from, stuff that you can't even imagine. And he's had access to this type of stuff. Really interesting guy. Here's the thing. I only watched the first hour and a half so far. So I know he was on a few times. So I can't answer that question yet because I don't know which prediction he made. So I was about an hour and a half in. His original talk was 2 hours, and he went on, he did another interview with Crow, probably another 2 hours after that. So once I catch up, I'll answer that question. But he talked about a lot of really interesting things. And one of the things he said that really resonates with me is that someone asked him about parenthood. And he said that God gives you this soul that you feel like is yours. It's not yours, but you feel like it's yours. Like when he gives you a child, that child has a soul. And God gives you this soul. And when you think about parenting, think about it from the perspective of God, our creator, gave you this eternal being, this soul that lives forever, that's infinite. And tasked you, he trusted you to raise this soul and to take care of this soul and to guide this soul. And what Fortune St. Germain said was, be patient. Remember that when you're frustrated, right? Show patience with your children. Because my children have beautiful eternal souls. And patience is one of the things I struggle with. And it really resonated with me hearing him word it that way. Maybe a guide to starting a homeschool pod in our areas. That would be interesting. The first thing you'd have to do is locate other homeschoolers in your area. So I hope you said hello in the Texas State group. But once you do that, it's really just building trust with the parents, right? You know, I would show leadership. So if I wanted to do that, I would first say, you know, I'm very knowledgeable in this area. I would volunteer to do this with the children every Tuesday. You know, every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I'll do this with the children. And then, you know, from there, just kind of build on it. He's saying the timeline has been sped up because the last 2 years has gone so well. Oh, I did hear him say that, actually. And that by 2023, I don't remember which month, he said the central bank digital currency would be in effect. Yeah, I actually agree with that. I told my wife that. I said there's no stopping it. The central bank digital dollar is coming. And for people that haven't really looked into this stuff, that is hell on earth, okay? It's hell on earth. I could show you magazines from the 1980s, The Economist, which is controlled by the Rothschilds, where they were talking about how this was their objective. Or I could show you an interview that there was this former congressman, he's passed away, what's his name? He made the documentary Freedom to Fascism. Very good documentary. I forget his name. And he talked about how one of the Rockefellers told him about the digital currency and how they wanted to bring it in many, many years ago. And he did this interview in like 2004, right? And he died in like 2008 or something like that. Interesting guy. I forget his name. Freedom to Fascism is the documentary he made, which is also all about the Federal Reserve Bank and federal income tax, which is very, very interesting documentary. Aaron Russo. It's in there like a steel trap. His name is Aaron Russo. So the digital dollar, the reason it's so tyrannical is right now, we operate under a corporate social credit system, right? Like corporations. Like, if they don't like your speech, you can't tweet, right? Or if you don't wear a muzzle, you can't go buy peaches at the grocery store, right? Well, what happens when all of money is digital and you do something that lowers your credit, your social credit, and then the bank could turn off your money, could confiscate it all because there's no paper, right? That's the future they're ushering in. And it's really clever how they've done it, because the controllers that be, they've been trying to do this for a long time. And by the way, for any of you saying, what are you talking about? Go read the initial bill put forward for the PPP loans. When they did the PPP loans in the initial bill that got rejected, they tried to establish, this is in the congressional document, they tried to establish the digital dollar, right? They wanted to do it all with digital dollar. Ultimately, what they did was, it's a progression, is they established the precedent that the government can inject money directly into your bank account without your consent. Say, oh, why would you need my consent? Because now you're allowing them to put their hands in your finances. It's a way in, right? What do you think? The government they're trying to help us. They're trying to control you. So ultimately what they're going to do is bring in the digital dollar. And they knew that the people that would be against it were the freedom-oriented type. The people that are weary of government, right? The more kind of right-wing, libertarian, anarcho-capitalist types would be against it. So what did they do? They introduced Bitcoin. They introduced cryptocurrency. They created a narrative that cryptocurrency was actually liberation from the banks, knowing that ultimately it would give the banks more power than they've ever had in human history. And the very people that should be against it, that think they stand for freedom, these libertarian types, anarcho-capitalist types, are championing, are ushering in the digital currency. And I've spoke with my friends that are really into this stuff, and they're so blinded by money. They're so blinded by it. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, bro. They don't know what you're talking about, bro. I was like, you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to put on the news after the digital dollar's been established. Someone clip this, because in a couple of years, I'd like to play this back. You're going to wake up in a few years after the digital dollar's already been established and it's a thing. And there is going to be all of these news reports, relentless bombardment of news reports, how Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies are being used to fund terrorism and all types of illegal activities, right? Relentless media narrative. The public's going to buy it. They're going to pass a law, and it's going to say, if you get caught holding any cryptocurrency other than the centrally bank-issued digital dollar, which we could track for safety reasons, it will be a felony, and you'll face 10 years in prison. You have 90 days to trade in, to redeem your worth in Bitcoin in digital dollars. And at first, it'll be good. At first, it'll be sound. You know, they'll be like, oh, there's this amount of it, blah, blah, blah. And then once they get people used to it, once they have them drinking from the tit, right? Then they will, just like fiat currency, they'll start printing more, or digitally printing more and more of it. They will inflate our currencies. They'll get immense control. So they could do a lot of positive things with it. Like, they will, like, imagine the automotive sector was failing. Like, imagine General Motors was failing. Or like an American car company that's very important to a region. Something like that. And the government says, okay, we're going to bail them out. But rather than bail them out in the traditional way, what they would do is the government could then come in and say, and this is why, like, this tool could be used in a positive way, but they will abuse it and it will be terrible. The bank could come in and say, we are going to inject $40,000 of digital currency into the bank accounts of X number of people. And those people have 60 days to spend that $40,000 that we just gave them on a General Motors car. Otherwise, all that money goes away. And they could prop up any industry they want, and people would get these new cars and they cheer for it and whatnot. And ultimately, what it will become is propping up negative actors and rewarding negative behaviors and punishing moral and base behaviors. And that's ultimately the future we're looking at. Now, don't black pill. Understand the future, get that crystal ball, look at it. I love in The Matrix when the Oracle, Neo can't see something, and the Oracle says, one cannot see past the decisions that they don't understand. What the Oracle was saying, what the message was there in The Matrix, is that every one of you has that type of power. I'm not calling you a prophet, but every one of you has the ability to see into the future. One first round about Bitcoin and the Silk Road in and Rolling Stone's article, which tells us all we need to know about Bitcoin and what was really going on with it from the beginning. Oh yeah, they are preparing to Bitcoin. I mean, Satoshi Nakamoto, right, was said to be the founder of Bitcoin, but no one knows who this person is. You want to know why no one knows who the founder of Bitcoin is? Because Satoshi Nakamoto in Japanese, what does it stand for? Oh, it stands for Central Intelligence. That's who started it. Everything you do is, you're a boiling frog. We're a boiling frog and we're in a pot. And if they took you and threw you in a pot, you would realize it's hot and jump out. But if they put that frog in that pot and then they start heating it up and boil the water, a frog won't even realize it's getting hotter, and they will stay there until they boil to death. And that's what Hardwood Bear was talking about with them speeding up the digital currency. What he was saying is the controllers, they did something very aggressive in March of 2020, and it was very aggressive, and I guess more people complied than they thought they would, and because of that, maybe they feel like they could accelerate their agenda. And Klaus Schwab, the head of the European Union, did say that they want to accelerate their Agenda 2030. Now, understand, they have big goals and aspirations and dreams, but everyone has a game plan until they get punched in the face, right? There are many forms of currency. That's why I've been telling everyone, have in-group preference, make your own supply chains, like know your local farmer, who you get chickens from. Get chickens because eggs are a currency. Grow your food because as the food supply chains become more controlled, if you're growing food, all of a sudden that asset becomes very valuable and you can not only eat it, but you can, right? You could trade it, you could barter it, you could sell it, you could do all these things with it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Mind you, this was before anyone knew what Bitcoin was. They were bringing it into the public consciousness under the guise of a rebel-based currency. Right. They brought Bitcoin and those currencies into the public consciousness through a narrative that it was actually going against. It was getting around the system, when in reality, it was the system bringing in the ultimate control grid. And that's what they want. And it's coming. There's no getting around it. And that's all right. But, you know, the Bible does say the mark of the beast will control who can buy or sell, right? I'm bare hands bear. You better have strong hands then. I'm feral patriot housewife everywhere. By the way, feral patriot housewife is a based name. That is awesome. According to my mom, I've been feral since birth. If I sign up, will me and my wife both be able to use it from our phones? Yes. I could set it up so that you and your wife can use it from your phones. It's just an app. I built it out on the Discord app. So, sorry, it's just jumping through comments here. If you do sign up, use the discount code FREEDOM, all lowercase, and then it's $10 a month. How many states is your curriculum approved in? I don't have a accredited curriculum. Most homeschool curriculums aren't. There's a few that are. I think Classical Conversations, Abeka, and Time for Learning are accredited. But that just means that they have a central building and they have state auditors review their curriculum and approve it. Most homeschoolers don't want that. But if that's something you're interested in, there's that. Moving back to Tennessee in 3 days. I'm going to be homeschooling, so forth. Love your content. Bug on your shirt. Yeah, I'm in the South. It's probably trying to kill me. Trying to kill me. Kill me. All right. Nothing has ever truly helped you from the government. That's the one message I teach my boys. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of special interests that are very vested financially and through their own personal gain in controlling the population. Our local homeschool group tends to focus on those who have money. It's jam. Yeah, it's jam. I thought you were talking about crypto. No, I was talking about crypto. I was homeschooled grades 6 to 12 and loved it. Going to start homeschooling my girls next year. Congratulations, that's awesome. Anyone here from Pennsylvania? We definitely have Pennsylvanians in our group. Do you have any tips for easing kids into homeschooling after they've been in public school? Yeah, ease them. You worded it right. Like, start with an hour a day and build from there. And don't be afraid to, like, let them know, like, ask them what they want to study. Like, let them embrace it. Say, what are you interested in? What do you want to study? And let them start by doing a little bit of that. Do original projects, and then just use that interest to develop skills and use those skills to get them entrepreneurial experience. So what are we supposed to do besides homeschool and grow our own food? That's half the battle. You want to know how to live free? I'll tell you how to live free. Get out of debt. Live within your means. I know that might be difficult because we're all in different situations, right? Get out of debt. Live within your means. Because if you're not in debt, you're very difficult to control. Get married. Have a family. Have lots of children. Don't let them trick you into thinking children are not wealth. They are wealth, right? Because when you start to do things in the real world, like when you start to grow your food, those children are, their hands on the farm, they're valuable and they're great. And as they get older, especially if you homeschool them and educate them right, they start to become an asset in that if the family needs to, they can bring in for the family. Like, children are wealth. Don't ever let anyone convince you differently. Live within your means, get out of debt, be a husband, be a wife, reject the modern culture of hookup culture and whatnot. Have your children, grow your food, start a side hustle, that you're trying to turn into a business, because if you own your own business and you're not reliant on a corporate employer, you're very difficult to control, right? I mean, take someone who has no debt, owns their own business, right? Don't you just see from that they're free? And then you add that they grow their own food, that they have a wife or a husband that they could count on, that, right? And then find your group, find in-group preference, know your neighbors. Like, people, it's so funny because you get these prepper shows and they don't want to really show people how to prep. And they're like, I've saved 100,000 cans. No, you want to know what's really valuable? People. People, a human being, is the most valuable resource in the world. This walking, talking, thinking machine with these tool hands that they can build anything that comes from their mind. Be a good neighbor. Know your neighbors. Know your local farmer. Know who does the chickens. Know who does the cows. Right? And you can start to count on one another. You can start to rely on one another and make sure you provide value to them. And you will position yourself better than 99% of the population. People think like, oh, they're going to come get us and put us in the FEMA camps. No, they're not. You're going to beg to go. You're going to beg. What you do when you're trying to control a population is you create an environment of fear, or you create an environment in which it is so bad, right? You've given them such a raw deal with maybe problems with the food supply, right? That they're willing to accept a lesser deal. Oh, come here. We have food for you. There's food here. Oh, what do I have to do to get in? Well, there's just a few things you have to do before we feed you. I think the thing that we're not allowed to talk about, increased video use. I battle with time limits. Coding is a great way. Coding is a great skill to teach your children. And there's Codable. There's the Kinderbot. There's Codable. There's the Microsoft coding program through Minecraft. There is ID Tech. You heard Bitcoin is owned by Soros. I heard that too. I wouldn't be surprised if he owned a lot of it. Or I wouldn't be surprised if he owned the whole thing, but... But the truth is, we don't know for sure. But I would say that the intelligence community was involved in its creation, whether that's a DARPA thing, right? And then they used you're lagging on TikTok, came over here to YouTube. Yeah, if you could get land and start growing food. And, like, don't be afraid to live in a trailer or, whatever you got to do to make that happen. File your paperwork, right? hslda.org, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I'm frozen. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. On TikTok? Yeah, it says I lost connection. It's switching between... I should be back now. Don't come over here.
Dad, you lost connection, so you gotta go on a different phone.
Thank you, Brittany.
Mom never thought of that. So you just have to go on your blue phone or the other. So see if they're not both got connection, so you could do your live stream again when both of them not frozen.
Oh, because you'll think they'll have a better connection?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Brady. I'm going to go a little closer to the house because it looks like the internet's getting a little spotty right now. Well, that's a good idea, but I'm going to get as close as I can to the house. All right. Oh, isn't she lovely? Isn't Coley lovely? Isn't she not matching? Okay. All right. All right.
So over here in this corner, I wear this beautiful shirt by I don't know who, and these skull pants by I don't know who.
Liking skull pants. All right. Klaus Schwab is not in politics. He's the founder of the World Economic... You think so, huh? All right. Any recommendations for our first evaluation in June? Are you talking about like state testing? When you say evaluation, what do you mean? Can you lower that a little bit, babe? So annoying when this jumps. And I gotta go back up to find your comment where I was. Used a Becca, had to send in test for grading, no thanks. Yeah, that's because you were following their accredited program, so you have to send in all your tests for grading and everything. I don't like that at all. If you lobby politicians, you're in politics. Or if you control the organization which all the money is behind, right, the World Economic Forum, then they're setting the agenda. World Economic Forum, the United Nations, Bilderberg, these globalist think tanks, they're setting the agenda. Now, if you really want to have a fun day, look into how Klaus Schwab, his family made their money. Now that will blow your mind. And then look up Klaus Schwab celebrating a statue of Karl Marx. And then understand what we're dealing with. What are you laughing at?
I'm just thinking in my head. I'm like, wow, if I lower the phone, then I can't hear him. So how am I going to know what you're talking about? But you're standing next to me. That is so funny.
Aubrey's had a fever this week, so Coley hasn't got much sleep. Oh yeah, he's one evil man. Yeah, look up how his family made their money. I mean, they probably try to hide it these days, but... These are not good people.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we have Kentucky people. We actually have a good Kentucky-Ohio group.
So that was just
No.
If
If you want to be on camera, you just have to put a shirt on, okay?
you want to try to throw it,
You want me to throw it?
yeah, just throw it light.
Oh, how you like me now? That was lefty.
That's funny. That made me laugh.
I can't wait. One is very interested in, this earthen vessel just said Kentucky here, is very interested in entrepreneurship. I want to help her grow. Have you reached out to Crow about doing an episode? I would love to go on Crow. I would love to go on Crow. But I don't reach out to any podcast. I take on a lot and I just don't have the time, the energy, to do that.
I should call Crow.
I've been waiting for someone to voluntarily start reaching out to podcasts for me. I would be so grateful for that. Don't you come over here without that shirt on. I know my curriculum is not in Spanish. That would be cool though. Gather Round has an entrepreneurial unit. Simply Charlotte Mason, business as well. Wednesday's child knows everything about every curriculum. It's amazing.
Now wait, you gotta fold it right, so it flies correctly like this.
All right, ready?
No, not that. You have to fold it right.
You want me to throw it lightly?
Yeah?
All right, ready? Is that good?
No, you have to fold it right beside it.
Will you show me how to do it? Because I thought that was pretty light. As I stand here vacuum sealing a pasta haul I found on sale. That's awesome. I hope I'm not still lagging. Yeah, definitely check out Cubs to Bears. Connection better.
Watch. This is how you
Love how protective you are of the kids.
do it. This is how you do it.
All right, ready?
How you do it.
All right, like this. Ready? Let's step back.
You're gonna whack in the face with a face pick.
Like that.
That's how you do it.
That's how it's done.
Do you want to try that one? Just don't fall too far. Just do it.
Second grade evaluation. PA requires evaluations every year. Yeah, I would have them take the testing. It's not a big deal. And,
Try the good one.
you know,
Fantastic one.
I don't like teaching to the test, but I would at least
Hey, Dad,
cover the subjects that, like if there's subjects, hold on.
did you show the people this?
Oh, you want me to show the people? Brady wanted me to show you. He's very excited about this. He has a bucket filled with balloons, and it uses, right? It uses air pressure
And water.
and water, right? You could do water with it to blow up the balloons. But Daddy is doing my stream, mister. Talking to the people. I'll be done in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I do recommend that when your children are going to take the state test, you at least expose them to whatever subjects will be covered, and they'll do fine. But I mean, I wouldn't get too stressed out about it. This is whatever, you know? It's a second grade test. Do you have to do the animation for Cubs to Bears? I can't. I haven't been able to get it going with my illustrator. I have a book ready to go, but my illustrator lives in the bad country, and I don't know. I spoke with my friend who's a lawyer, and he made me a little weary about sending money to that country, especially with what I do. So I've had to give it a second thought about if that's the route I want to go, and I don't know. I've kind of just not done anything with it. That's why there hasn't been a Cubs to Bears book out. There should be one out already. Yeah, I'm not happy about the whole Amazon situation either, but it is what it is. So, all right, guys, I think this has been a pretty good stream. If you're interested in what I do, that's www.classicallearner.com. Homeschool's connected, and it is $10 a month with the discount code
And
FREEDOM.
make sure you tap on our channel so you can listen to my live streams.
Brady said make sure you tap on our channel so you can listen to more live streams. Thank you, Brady. Very good advice. And when you sign up, you get access to myself, the community of legendary homeschool mothers and fathers, Mrs. Classical Learner, as she's raising her hand over here, our state group, so you can connect with people in the state that you live, the live courses I teach every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. right now. I'm teaching a course on the Bill of Rights and the American Revolution. The Bill of Rights and the American Revolution. I have a course on propaganda that I teach using the Cubs to Bears children's book series, a course on the media industrial complex, and our year-long nature unit study, which in my opinion is the most valuable thing that we do. Children not only learn real world skills like composting and making fertilizer and planting seeds and constructing garden boxes and art and music. I'm not music, art, videography, photography, but we're actually getting children entrepreneurial experience with our nature unit study. That's www.classicallearner.com. Homeschools Connected, promo code FREEDOM, all lowercase, and it is $10 a month. We do not lock you in for anything longer than a month. So if you don't like it, you're out $10, but you will like it. I promise you that.
Rumor has it there's an herbal game coming out.
Rumor has it my wife made an herbal game, which is phenomenal. We're in the process of getting it published, and all members of Homeschools Connected will get that for free.
And all the stuff that I make.
And all the stuff that my wife makes, which is phenomenal. In fact, she's been making these awesome educational posters for our nature unit study. She's been making them every week now, and they just absolutely crush. So she's gotten pretty talented with the Canva. So, all right, guys, I'm Classical Learner on everything. Freedom isn't free. I don't make it every Thursday at 9:30 a.m., but RVing across America, Melissa, she puts me on blast. So I will try to be here tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for a quick stream. The site is www.classicallearner.com. That is classicallearner.com. You could also get there by clicking the link in my TikTok profile. It will take you to my book section of my site, but just navigate the site and you'll find Homeschools Connected at classicallearner.com. Use the discount code FREEDOM, all lowercase, and you'll be good to go. And this is a little shell. Brady must have found this.
Yeah, he was digging for him.
Digging for shells. All right, the plants need watering. Bye, guys. What are you doing? You silly goose.
Look, my lavender's blooming.